Hello, you gorgeous teacher. If you're one of my lovely regular listeners, welcome back. If you're brand new to Everything EFL podcast, you are most welcome, and I hope you stick around. Okay, so I'm feeling a bit better. I had a great week last week, I'm not going to lie. Having a week off was the best decision I've made all year. Sometimes I really think it pays just to stop, I got so much clarity, and I really do think that next year is going to be a good year, very productive. Second thing, I asked a former colleague who listens to my podcast what difference it's making her, and she gave me a list of things, actually, which I'm really happy about. She said that listening has cut down her prep time, which delighted, I'm all about that, and she's like a little bit more free and easy with her planning and reacting to what happens in the class. Love that. It's not just about planning down to the last minute, you know that. Think about what your students give you and about how you can use it. So she also added that her confidence as a teacher has grown. She's more willing to try out new things, and she also says no to management requests regarding more hours, whereas before she probably wouldn't have. So that makes me so happy, because this proves that this kind of holistic approach that I've been taking works. Methodology is, of course, important, but, the way you approach language is important. The way you deliver it is important, but you cannot forget, firstly, about your own well-being, your own confidence and satisfaction and energy levels as a teacher. And also, what I'm talking about being holistic is, things like including some mindfulness in class, building community and confidence. All of these things are just as important. I say this all the time. You can have the best lesson plan in the world, but if your students don't trust you, what's the point? You just wasted 2 hours preparing an amazing lesson nobody's going to engage in. The two have to mesh together to create a really healthy classroom dynamic. Planning on doing a podcast episode with one of my lovely teachers from French Guiana. She actually did the Methods and Mindset course, so that will probably be out in the new year. Might be before, probably not though, not sure. But I just wanted to share that little success story with you because, you probably have noticed last episode as well. I said some very positive things about the podcast from another teacher, and, it's not about blowing my own trumpet. I just think, it's about showing you the things that I talk about, and the things that I apply are the things, that you guys have started applying, and they're working for you as well. So moving into the new year, when I, tart up and revamp my Methods and Mindset course, think about signing up. I think it will do you good. If you're on my newsletter list, you will get a good discount. If you're not already on that, the details are in the show notes. This version of the course will be even better value. I was talking last week about splitting into two, but I think I've changed my mind because, like I said, some people prefer the mindset, some people prefer the methods, but the two have to mesh together. Anyway, this leads very nicely into what we're talking about today. Confidence before content. Now, if you're a long-time listener, you know that there are several episodes about confidence and community. So this is just kind of an end-of-the-year reminder. I'm winding down for the year, guys. New stuff will come next year. If you have any requests or any ideas for future episodes, if there's something you have issues with and you want me to tackle on an episode, get in contact. Everything's in the show notes. You know what to do. And we're back in the room. I just want you to stop and think about, let's say, the last 2 to 3 months of teaching that you've done. How much has it been pure content like grammar, vocab, pronunciation? How much of it has been working on students' confidence building, getting them to gel together, any sort of mindfulness in class, and sort of the I can mindset attitude? Then I want you to ask yourself whether that ratio is well balanced. Don't think I can't hear some of you shouting at your phone saying, I don't have time for this. You do. You should, and you must. How can you do this? Look, you can integrate both the mindset stuff into the content stuff. For example, if you're using a book, right, and you've got a grammar point coming up, I'm going to assume there's a reading or a listening task that students have to do before the grammar point is kind of explored and dealt with. And ask yourself, is the topic of the listening or the reading engaging? Is it mindful? Could you find another one that has more relation to something sort of inspiring? Or if not, what about, a follow-up activity rather than, just getting students to speak for the sake of using the target language? For example, inspirational quotes that can be sourced or something like that. Any little activities where you're practicing the language in a more receptive way. So you're exposing them to examples of the language rather than asking them to produce it. But whatever it is includes the target language that you're looking at. Side note, inspirational quotes are great for the first conditional. If it's going to take you a long time to source these kinds of texts, consider using ChatGPT. I know not everybody agrees with it. If you're dead against it, I understand. By all means, you can write your own text, your own dialogue. It will take a little bit more time, but, you can reuse it and rework it. So it could be a good sort of investment of your time moving forward. If you'd like to use AI, you could input some instructions. So think about what your students know, okay? Or think about what you know about your students. So, for example, a lot of mine are really into the outdoors or walking, climbing, running, swimming. And if we stick to sort of a more lexical approach, we can input specific phrases I want, like I've never done that before. Have you ever tried? And you could connect it to the context, have you ever tried hiking, or have you ever been to Wicklow to hike? Think about those institutionalized or common phrases and the verbs that match within that context. And also, input the level of your students. So your instructions will go something like this. Generate a dialogue, because I love dialogues, for B1 adult learners of English. Make the context about outdoor activities and include the following sports: climbing, running, swimming, walking, hiking. 3 students are having lunch after school and talking about their weekend plans because it's going to be a rare sunny weekend in Dublin. One of the students is feeling lonely and is a little afraid to try out some new things they love because they're in a different country. Include phrases and language that are very real world, conversational, and that are positive, uplifting, and encouraging. That, for my group, would be perfect. Obviously, for your group, it might be something else, but you get the idea. It can be as easy as that. So what you're doing is you've got your grammar, you've got some nice phrases, but the sort of the tone, the uplifting tone of the dialogue can be everything. That can be so nice. And then they role play it. They could talk about, how they help and encourage their friends to do things. What do they do when they're afraid? It could lead to a nice little discussion like that. So you can just weave in that positivity, that mindset, that mindfulness into your lesson in that way. It doesn't have to be an explicit activity just about mindset. Also, if you can, leave time for reflection, sharing, and encouraging students to work together. Again, all of that stuff is very, very good for your students' mindset. I did something in my beginner class ages ago, but the idea was to teach them some nice phrases so that if we're doing some kind of, feedback where a student gets a question correct, the other students could go, well done, great job, good stuff, or whatever you want to teach them, 1 or 2 phrases is okay. Or how about the first 5 or 10 minutes, again, looking at an inspirational quote. Love inspirational quotes. Just practicing like plus ing or love plus ing. I love blank. How about you? I love blank because, and then this would be great for emergent language as well, because you could encourage lower levels to justify their reasons. Yeah, they're not going to say it perfectly. Doesn't matter. That's where you come in. So, you can go over the language they produce, and then maybe in the next lesson you can repeat it, get them to practice it again with their slightly amended versions of their emergent language that you've given them. You can do that every week. Or how about, someone has an issue, so you have to suggest a solution using how about plus ing. These little sort of nuggets of structures, you can just sort of introduce them every now and then. I'm thinking about grammar again. Those kinds of receptive activities, or those little activities where you just want them to produce something small while they're getting to grips with the language. And you could also use what I like to call mindful grammar. Some examples I've already given, but if you're doing small exercises, mini tasks, don't just get something random from the internet. Make something yourself. It doesn't take very long at all, I promise. And again, you can use it in different classes. You could also reuse them with the same class a month or so later. Why not? You could do something really simple, like, let's say you're doing the past simple, right? You could get students to write down or talk about all of the good things they did last year, or a time when they were happy. A time when they were happy because they helped someone. What did they do? Or just a time when they felt happy. Why? Again, this only needs to take 10 minutes or so, but just imagine if you can just put a small activity like this into every or almost every lesson. And if you're running out of time, you don't have time to prep, let's talk about breathing. It's a 2-minute activity. Put on some hippy-dippy meditation music, get students to close their eyes and breathe. If you want a full-on mindfulness activity using breathing, check out episode 96 called Go to Your Happy Place. I actually did it today at the end of the lesson. We just have 10 minutes left. It wasn't really enough to get into an activity, a kind of mistimed thing. Happens all the time, you know it. So I was like, okay, let's do the Happy Place activity. Again, check out episode 96 if you want to know more about that. But it's no prep, and you can do loads of extension work on it. If your imagination is a little bit dry, if you're not feeling inspired, there are tons of activities out there that you can Google, as well as confidence or community building activities, reflection activities. They're all out there for you. You don't have to think too hard. You just have to find a few different websites. And especially if you teach kids or teenagers, there's tons of stuff out there for you. So again, just food for thought, guys. Just try to weave this as much as you can into your lesson. And, the best thing about this kind of stuff, apart from just all the obvious benefits, is the benefit for you. It's generally low or no prep. If you want to know a little bit more about sort of the benefits of this kind of stuff, have a look at my Cornerstones series from 105 to 116. There's a few episodes you can sort through that kind of goes through what I would like to call non-content stuff. I'm not one for big fancy words. So anyway, now, because we've talked about this, I think it's time to resurrect a freebie of mine, which I like to call Mindful Grammar. I'm going to attach the link in the show notes. You will be funneled into my newsletter. You can unsubscribe. But just remember that discount that I talked about for the Methods of Mindset course next year, So that's it for today, guys. I think I've got maybe 2 more podcasts before the Christmas break. And like I said, any requests, please let me know. And also, if you've noticed any positive effects from listening to this podcast or reading my newsletter, please get in touch. I'm always looking for testimonials and just to hear from you to see if, the work that I do does make a difference. I believe it does, but I would love to hear it from you. Just think of it as a thank you for all the free content that you're receiving. This is just one way you can show how you appreciate the value of it. Also, if you like my style, and you think your school can benefit from some teacher training sessions, email me. It's in the show notes. I'm currently talking to a couple of different schools about some different things, and it's all looking very exciting. Anyway, my gorgeous teacher, have a safe and peaceful week. Look after yourself. Look after your students as well. And most importantly, share the love. Bye.